Hey YouTube, today we're going to be reviewing my highest end laptop to date, the Lenovo Legion 7 AMD Advantage Edition with 6800H and a 6700M. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so I can keep reviewing these laptops. Taking a look at our specs, it's got two 8GB DDR5 RAM sticks, a 1TB PCIe Gen 4 NVMe SSD. The Wi-Fi card is a MediaTek, the RZ616, which is apparently a collaboration chip between AMD and MediaTek. While I've had poor experiences with MediaTek Wi-Fi chips in the past, in my testing it was comparable to the performance in the Intel AX210 in my Legion 5 Pro. Next, taking a look at the ports, starting on the right, you have a headset port, webcam shutter, and USB 3.2. On the back is your RJ45. USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 that supports 135 watts power delivery, HDMI 2.1, two USB-A 3.2 ports and power input. On the left you have another USB-C 3.2 and a USB-C 4.0 port. So if you're going to be using an external hard drive or something, a flash drive, make sure you hook it up to that port. Lenovo's website does mention an SD card reader, which is actually only on the Slim 7. I pointed out to Lenovo, who promised to send me a cookie as a reward for noticing that and should be fixing it. Lenovo, if you're watching, please send me review units instead. Overall, the build quality is about what you'd expect out of a $2,000 laptop. There's a hard metal trim running around the base of the laptop. The keyboard deck is some sort of metal composite, the same for the screen lid. It's very solid, no screen wobble. The weight comes in at 2.5 kilograms or 5.5 pounds. Adding on the very large 300 watt charging brick gives you another kilogram. But if you're taking your laptop somewhere for not to game, you can opt to carry a lighter 60 watt or greater USB-C charger to charge it. The keyboard is per key RGB, in addition to RGB light bars that line the base of the laptop. Overall, very pleasant typing experience, although I do personally prefer laptops that have a numpad that don't have a numpad and have a more spacious typing area. Holding down the function and Q key as illustrated by the graphic in the bottom right will switch between your performance modes, and another nice touch of the Legion 7 that they didn't give the Legion 5 is when you hold down the function key, it highlights all of your available keyboard shortcuts. Function R switches your screen between 60 and 165 Hz. This is a nice shortcut if you're on battery powered and want to switch to 60 Hz to conserve quite a bit of battery. Function spacebar switches between the various lighting presets that you can customize in the Lenovo Vantage software. Function plus the arrow up or down key increases or decreases your keyboard key brightness. And lastly, an odd thing to have keyboard shortcuts for, but there's keyboard shortcuts to turn on and off the Legion logo and the little light up symbols for your rear ports. Inside the Lenovo Vantage software, of note, you have your mux switch and your screen overdrive toggles. You can also adjust your RGB keyboard lighting, profiles, settings in here, and you can adjust your webcam's exposure. The screen is, as far as I can tell, identical to the screen in the Legion 5 Pro from last year. 500 nits IPS, 165 Hz, 2560 by 1600 with 100% sRGB and 80% DCI-P3. Using the overdrive option will bring it down to an advertised 3 millisecond gray-to-gray response time. To test the 99.9 watt-hour battery, I did my normal test, streamed YouTube, set the screen to 60 Hz, turned on hybrid mode, and used the lowest power profile within the computer's built-in software, Lenovo Vantage, and set the screen to 40% brightness. And with this, the battery lasted for about 13 hours, within margin of error of tying the other AMD Advantage system I've tested. My highest result, the MSI Delta 15 with the 6700M. On to the main event, let's take a look at our thermals and performance. 24 minutes into a 30-minute Cinebench R23 stress test, the 6800H is running at an average of 84 watts with temperatures at 86.5 degrees. 22 minutes into a GPU-only stress test, the 6500M is averaging 120 watts at 67.4 degrees. And you can see in the screenshot, still no problems pulling up to 135 watts. Running both stress tests at the same time, representing the worst case scenario workload, the 6800H is getting up to the mid-90s, and the fans at full blast are about 60 decibels. While gaming, you're looking at about 55 to 58 decibels in performance mode. with pretty solid temperatures. Switching over to balance mode drops the noise down to the low 50s at the cost of about a 20% drop in performance. But a AAA title like Far Cry 6 is still very playable, you can see here, even at ultra settings at Quad HD. In Cinebench R23, the Legion 7 has a score of 1557 single core and 14641 multi-core. That's still about 10% behind in single core and 20% in multi-core of a 12th gen Intel, but a 14% jump from my best 6th gen 5800H AMD result. In 3D Mark times 5, if that's important to you, the Legion 7 tops the chart at 10760. In Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p, the Legion 7 comes in with a very strong showing at ultra settings, 97 frames per second. Turning on ray tracing, it's a different story. Cyberpunk in particular, AMD cards really seem to struggle with its ray tracing. Next, we're going to see how the 6700M performs in its native Quad HD 2560 by 1600p resolution. In Forza 5, using the game's benchmark at ultra settings, which includes ray tracing, the Legion 7 outperformed my only other 16x10 laptop, the Legion 5 Pro, with 74 frames per second. In Far Cry 6 at ultra settings at 1600p, we're looking at 85 frames per second. If you want to see more gaming benchmarks at 1080p and 1440p, check out my last video that compares the 6700M to a current gen RTX 3060 Intel machine. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss my next video where I have an Alienware with the i7-12700H and RTX 3070 Ti that I'll be running through the same benchmarks. So currently this model of the Legion 7 is $1,800 from Lenovo on sale. There is a more pricey 6900H with a 6850 MXT configuration, but it only lasted like a week before going out of stock. It's not even an option, you can't buy it anymore. I'm so far pretty impressed with this laptop and the full power 6700M's performance. If I had to find one thing to nitpick about, it would be only having 2 USB Type-A ports. Don't get me wrong, having 3 USB-C ports is awesome, but I personally use 3 or 4 USB-A ports normally. 2 for my keyboard and mouse, 1 for my wireless headset dongle, and finally 1 for my USB mic. It's nice being dongle free on my 2021 Legion 5 Pro. So that's all I got. If you have any questions, make sure you ask them below, and as always, thanks for watching.